All right. Whoop. All right, I
Are
think
we
we
ready to start?
yes.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:07. Angie, if we could do roll call, please.
All right, absolutely. Chair Wertz is not here yet. Vice Chair Yant,
Here.
Tony Bevel,
I'm here.
Dorian Leibel,
I'm here.
Lisa Patterson, here. Lori Zwingli, and Diane Foster.
I'm here, and I let Angie know, but I have to log off a little before 7, 5 or 10 minutes before 7 for another meeting. So I apologize.
All right, thank you.
I was muted. I am here.
So the approval of minutes from last month's meeting. Any comments or corrections? No? Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve.
Second, anyone?
I will second.
Great. Then the minutes have been approved. Let's hand it over to Captain Carlson for our issues and complaints, which I don't think there's any new business this month. I think it's just updates.
Yeah, I believe so. So before we get started, Chief Hanlon was going to be here, but he apologizes. He got pulled away and couldn't make it. I'm sure everyone's heard about Sunday's crash. So we just kind of wanted to touch base on that and kind of get what we know or what we can tell you guys out in the open. So, because there's a lot of false statements and some kind of rumors and things going around. So we just kind of wanted to touch base with y'all and kind of give you what's going on our end, the law enforcement end. We can't give out a lot of details, but one thing we can tell you that sometimes there's a lot of stuff going around about where the two girls were at. The two girls were on the sidewalk. They were not trying to cross the street at the time they got hit. There's some stuff going around that they're trying to cross the road or in the roadway. The indications right now that's false. They were on the sidewalk. We've been getting several emails about Edie Road and the issues with Edie Road. And one of the hangups that we run into that I don't believe a lot of citizens know is that is a county road. So everything that any kind of improvement that we need, that we would like to request needs to go through the county. The construction, the lowering the speeds, all that needs to go through the county. I've been told in the past that the city has asked the county to lower the speeds, and that was denied. There is some talk about partnering with the school district for grants. I believe I was going to talk about that on a later complaint, but one thing that's going on now is the school district's talking with the city on partnering with safe schools or safe routes to school and eligible sidewalk projects. They're looking at grants for that. And that was started prior to what happened on Sunday. But that's probably going to pick up speed with what happened. So if you guys have any questions.
Yes, I do, actually. So my understanding of I'm not real good with directions when they say traveling northbound, southbound. I don't know what that means. So is it, did the driver cross the oncoming lane of traffic and jump the curb? What happened?
I would say the preliminary investigation is showing that, yes.
Why?
What's that?
Do we know why yet?
No. No. They're still doing the investigation. They're doing interviews today with people involved, so. But yeah, they were on the sidewalk when they were hit.
After when something like
Officers
this
doing?
happens, when something like this happens, do you automatically take breathalyzer, take blood samples that, or?
Yes, the driver's cooperating. He consented to field sobriety tests. He also consented to urine and blood, and that's been sent off to labs. Anything else before we move on? All right, one other thing I forgot to mention is we are doing a speed analysis. That should start early next week sometime. So by at our next meeting, we should have some results that we can give you because the speed, obviously, we were getting a lot of complaints of speeders on that road. So we're kind of getting ahead of the curve here and getting a speed analysis done. Again, that's going to go out next week. So we should have that by next meeting. So
Captain, does the city or the county have precedents on that road to do the speed test?
the city's doing the speed test. So for the March meeting, looking ahead, our meeting is right at spring break, right in the middle of spring break. So I guess discussion needs to be, are we going to try to have it right in the middle of spring break? I don't know what y'all's plans are. So we could cancel March and go to April, or we could try to move it to a different week if we could. Any discussion on that?
I'm available that week. And I'd be happy to meet another week. I think with so many active complaints and with this recent crash, it seems like there will probably be a lot of conversation to be had. And so not to skip it, but try to find an alternative time if that week doesn't work.
Yeah, I agree.
So does that week work for everyone?
Mhm.
I'm getting one, no.
I'm in town that week.
But it's good for everybody?
I'm good for that week.
Not good for me, but I'm just one person.
I should be available.
All right, well, if we're all available, I can do it remotely. We could keep that. So for now, let's just keep the date and we'll send something out. All right, on to the tracking sheet. Any questions on the tracking sheet? There's one update. It's closed, but the truncated domes at Meineke and Dow, I believe, is it Dow? The timber crossing, those are being put in today.
I think it's Sequoia. I actually saw them go in and
Okay, yeah. So that was a project from, I believe, last year. They striped it, put signage up, and they're just waiting on the contractor to do the domes. And it looks like they're getting done today, so. So the first update is 2021-004. So my notes show that it was that's the one where we're waiting on the truncated domes. Crosswalk painted and domes in the future. So I guess that's the one we talked about, just keeping it pending. My notes show, or do we want to close that one out?
When are they thinking they'll be able to put the truncated domes in? Do we have a idea?
They told me no timeline is set. Right now, for just getting supplies, it's like 3-4 months out. So that's been ordered for a while now, and I don't remember exactly when the one on Meineke was started, but it's probably 6 months, and they're just putting
Captain Carlson, if I could put in for information on the Sherwood Senior Center entrance. Basically, we can stripe it, but as soon as we start to change and put in the truncated domes, then there's a whole set of ADA requirements that come into play, which would mean we would have to purchase right-of-way, expand sidewalk areas, and do a major project. It is an intersection. It is a public street intersecting Sherwood Boulevard. So it changes the character and the nature of that crossing. Right now, we can stripe it. It does go to grade. In other words, there is a sloping sidewalk. It's not ADA accessible. It's not ADA compliant, but there is no trip hazard. So in this case, what we're saying is we'll put it on the list of things to do for full reconstruction meeting ADA standards. That'll go to Public Works and they'll fit it in when they can with the rest of the projects that meet that criteria. In the meantime, we'll stripe it so that we have better visibility with cars coming into and out of the senior center, knowing where to stop, where the ped crossing is located, but it doesn't trigger ADA compliant requirements for reconstruction.
Yeah, and that crosswalk has already been painted.
Right. So it's the best we can do in the near term. The long term would be to redo the whole intersection. But again, that would turn into a major project, including acquisition of right-of-way. And that's just not in the scope of what Public Works can do at this particular point in time. So they'll add it to their list and we'll go from there.
So since there's nothing else for the traffic committee to do, should we show this as closed on our list? Because we've done what we can.
Seemed reasonable to me.
It seems so to me as well, since the other project probably is much farther out.
Yeah. Okay. Do we need to vote on closing that out?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to change the status of project 2021-004 to complete or closed.
I'll move that we close 2021-004 to closed.
Second.
Great. So 2021-004 is now closed. Yay.
So moving on to 2021-005. My notes say Bob is going to do or have some follow-up for us. That's the traffic counts.
Yes, right now, I have set traffic counters at the Crooked River intersection, Old Highway 99. I've also set traffic counters at Timbrel onto Sunset. So I should have information at both those intersections that I'll be able to relate to the TSC in the next meeting. And we'll go from there. That's just for whether or not, there's speeding occurring along all that section of road, either in Sunset or on Old Highway 99. So that's half the equation that we'll have data on. I still have to get with our traffic consultant to do a ped crossing count. So that's pending. I know I've got the approval to do it. I just have to break away some time to get it going. And that should be concluded by tomorrow. So we'll have those traffic counters picked up. We have to download the data, and then I have to redistribute all those traffic counters along Edie Road. So I'm shifting gears on that one to bring that one up to speed. So I'll be putting all 4 traffic counters out on Edie Road at different places. So I have a complete picture of what's going on with Edie Road, and we'll get that information as soon as possible as well. Any questions on that?
Appreciate what you're doing, Bob.
Doing what we can.
All right, moving to 2021-006. That's the Woodhaven Drive and Hosler Way entrance to the YMCA. The curb painting request was sent to Public Works and the city manager. Again, that's waiting on timeline. I've been told by Public Works that it's basically a weather thing right now. They got to wait till the weather warms up and they get a period of dry weather with the temperatures warm enough that they could paint the striping. So that's more of a springtime, summer job, they said. So they're just waiting for the weather to improve before they do that. So when I get a timeline or when I get a date that they would be able to do that, I'll update you guys, but that's what we're waiting on for that. Next one, 2021-008. Sunset at Timbrel. Again, that's sent to city manager for approval. That's the ped count, traffic count. Again, Bob's going to do on that intersection. I mentioned earlier the school district. We've been in contact with them. They've been in contact with the city. So they're working on the real preliminary stages now to see if they're going to put in those grants. So that's where that is. And that's going to encompass flashing lights. That's what they're trying to do. And he's out. They're actually looking at like 4 different spots in the city intersections where they want to place those flashing lights, crosswalk lights. So they're just in discussion right now with the city on writing up the grant.
I have a question about that. Is there a need or a want for anyone, like a safety committee member, to be part of that grant process? And also just curious if the city is planning on also connecting with the county about partnering for the grant application, if there's any Safe Routes to School county funding that could be applied to the county roads that potentially may have a flashing beacon.
We haven't went down that road.
Mhm.
Again, these are just basically preliminary talks with the city. I guess they can both put in a grant. And so that's what they're kind of coordinating now, is how they're going to do the grant write-up. If someone's interested in being part of that, I can reach out to the city and see if what they say about having a board member, a committee member helping out.
I think that city council will be putting in letters of recommendation, which basically is a very high bar, very high standard for getting any grant applications going to start with. Having the traffic safety committee would be a good secondary source of support for it because it's community driven. The concept of getting the county on board with this, well, the county's going to have to be on board because a lot of the areas that they're requesting these rectangular rapid flashing beacons, I call them RRFBs. For me, it's the acronym's easy. Some of those are located on county roads, and those will have to have subsequent approval and interaction with the county so that we can place those on their facilities, even though their facilities are within the city's limits. So there will be some actions that will require the county to be a part of that process. And then there are some facilities that are standalone. The city and the school district can go forth on their own accord.
Any questions on that one? All right, 2022-001. That's the Hanley and Southwest Rolich pedestrian crossing. At the last meeting, it was recommended that we do some X patrols and the traffic trailer be put out. X patrol has been issued to the officers and they're working that. I don't have the stats on that because it's actively being worked right now. So I should have that finalized at our next March meeting and give you the stats on that. And then it looks like 2020-22-002 is the same recommendation, traffic enforcement. That's on the corner of, what is it, Old Town and Sherwood parking area. So we're doing that, X patrols, education in that area also. We're also looking at the parking down there and seeing if that's up to standards, the parking spaces. And then 2022-003, Park and First, basically the same. We're just doing traffic enforcement now, and I should have stats on that one come March meeting. Any questions on any of those?
For the parking complaints, is there an education piece that's still being coordinated with that as well? And just curious if what the status is on that.
Yeah, so we give out, they're just like little warnings. They're not citations. They kind of look like citations, but a little smaller. If they see someone parking there, they'll just give them a warning instead of citing someone for parking like that, like too close to the stop sign, those things. Questions on any of those? We flew through those pretty quickly.
I guess a little further on that too, we had discussed about, and it's in the notes too, about the social media posts as more broad general education too, about the dangers of parking on the corners and visibility. And so I didn't know if that's something that's also in progress too, or is that something potentially could be used in the future if there's an issue?
Yeah, that's on my to-do list. That's one thing I did not get to this month, is getting that out there. So hopefully I'll be able to get some time and get that posted.
And we did actually, just as a side, we talked about that on our last police advisory board committee meeting as well, that the chief was present at, and he did like that idea. Of course, that was before, this week got a little crazy probably for everybody. So he did like that idea for that to be on the sort of a PSA to everyone as well. So I would imagine that that's probably in the works on both of your lists and many lists.
Yes. Yep, that's one of my to-do. I just didn't get to all that this month with everything going on, so. All right, I guess we're going down to committee comments. None? And I don't believe we have any citizen comments this month.
No, we don't.
I have a question, sorry, to go back to committee comments. Is there some, especially with this Sherwood School District and in light of recent events and some of the active complaints that we have on our register, of doing a more, and I know this would have to be funded and I don't know if that's something that we can do, but a more holistic review of the school crossings. And, I think that potentially part of the Safe Routes to School application would be helpful too, to like bolster that application, but so that it doesn't seem like we are just ad hocly addressing things based on complaints and looking at it from an area perspective. And I don't know if like planning probably or traffic already has something like that, that maybe we could review and help us with our conversations and discussions here.
This is Bob. The transportation system plan included a lot of pedestrian corridor analysis for safety. I'm not sure if it included it for school, but it did include safety, endpoint connections, and where there were gaps in that system. So we do have the transportation system plan as a baseline to start with. It has a complete listing of those areas that were basically identified in the last update where we need to deal with it over time to provide for that connectivity and safety for those major routes for pedestrians from being point A to point B. So we have that to start with, and it's not complaint driven. That is basically, that's what we see from an analysis of a system. And I would suggest that if that is our baseline, that we could look at that, if you want to look at that as a committee, and then start looking at, well, which ones really need to be done first, where are the complaints relative to what that transportation system plan is showing?
Does that sound good to everyone?
Yep. If there's nothing else, we can adjourn the meeting. Take that as yes. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you next month.
Thanks,
All right.
Tiffany.
Thank you. Take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Night.
Night.